What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan here with a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going to go over 2 key steps to make your fantasy teams better. Now, if you're just joining into the fantasy lifestyle and you wanted to know, like, how do I get better instantly? Like, how do I get better at drafting my team? And there's two very simple steps, 2 very easy tips that I can give out. The first one is do mock drafts. Now, mock drafts seem very silly and goofy, and why should you do them? You basically get the drift of what a draft is going to be. If you already know your draft order, you can kind of do, if you go on Sleeper, which is the app that I highly recommend using. Not that there's anything wrong with Yahoo or any of the apps, it's just there's so much on Sleeper that they offer. It just by far is the best fantasy app to use. You can do a mock draft and you can put in a bunch of settings. You could pick which team you want to claim where you're going to be drafting at and go from there. I think it's very helpful because once the draft hits, you're not as thrown off of how this draft should go or what to expect and what not to expect, when to take a certain player, when a player might go, all of that stuff. And I think it's a very helpful tip. And you could do these as much as you want on Sleeper. They also have it where you can go and do a mock draft with live people. They have a channel dedicated to that, so it's really nice and makes it really easy for you guys to kind of get the gist of what a draft will be. Now, for me, what I'm going to suggest in a great tip starting off of drafting your fantasy team, not only just for beginners, but for people that are looking to better how they draft. And it's simply just queue. It's make your queue. Now you think, oh, I already know who I want. I don't need to, I don't need to queue. The reason I suggest this is just because you might get lost or you might forget a player while you're drafting and you do a pick. If you're drafting at the 1-6 and you don't have a pick until the 2-7 and you like, say, Ja'Marr Chase, you think he's the best fantasy player ever, but you're like, oh, well, Cooper Kupp's still there, Dalvin Cook, I'll take one of them. And then you're like, oh man, Ja'Marr Chase was there. So it's not as much as the early rounds because those are the big name players. These are the guys that you're going to be starting and you should know about. What I'm talking about is when you get into the later rounds. So when you start to get to the 10th round and you're down here and you're like, oh, I really don't know anything about these guys or like what's their situation. And you get there and you're kind of thrown off. But if you go beforehand in any app that you use, you can always set a queue. You can go through, you can change the order. So I just go position by position. I go quarterback. I get these guys and I add them add them to the queue. I go, oh man, I really like Josh Allen. He's the best quarterback. Like him a lot. Oh, I like Russell Wilson too. He's later in the drafts. Maybe I forget about him. Oh, Matt Stafford's there. Let me add Matt Stafford. I really like Justin Fields. You add Fields, and then you keep going position by position. You go and you look through every player. You go, oh man, I really like him. I really like him. You add it. And then you could switch it around based off of their ADP so that if you do, for whatever reason, auto pick or anything like that, your queue is set up. That's the biggest advice that I can give to you guys to help your teams only improve. I see a lot of people kind of struggle once they get into the later rounds of drafts because they just don't know who to pick. They just pick a name. They just pick somebody and don't realize what they can contribute to their fantasy teams, what their situation is. Maybe a player's losing value and you don't really even know why, and you didn't do that much research into the back half of your draft. So that's why I highly suggest doing mock drafts, setting up a queue, and these 2 things can definitely help you advance and become better in drafting your fantasy football teams. So I hope this video did help. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, and I will see you in the next video.